Hey guys, tonight we slip off our socks, settle under the covers, and take a long, sleepy step back into the past, to Imperial China. You're not a royal, not a warrior, just a regular person, a humble footsore everyman, navigating a world of silk, sandals, and very complicated tea etiquette. The air smells like sesame oil and firewood. You can hear the soft creak of bamboo blinds swaying in the breeze. And somewhere nearby, a chicken is screaming its little heart out, for reasons unclear and probably unrelated to you. But here's the catch. This isn't a travel brochure. It's a reality check. You, in all your modern glory, with your sneakers and plumbing and personal space, probably wouldn't survive a single day in this world without crying. Just a little. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're up for it, drop your location and local time in the comments. I always love seeing where and when you're listening. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes to dawn in Chang'an, heart of the Tang dynasty. The year is 738 CE. It smells like burnt rice husks and morning sweat. This city, the largest in the world at the time, is a checkerboard of gated wards. Inside each ward, homes, markets, temples, everything is regulated. Even the night watchmen, who are still blowing on their conch shell trumpets to signal the end of curfew. You live in the artisan's quarter, squeezed between a paper maker and a woman who sells fermented soy paste that smells ambitious. Your home is a 2-room clay brick building with wooden beams and a roof that leaks exactly above your sleeping mat. And guess what? There's no doorbell, just a neighbor clapping outside if they need you. You roll off your mat, joints stiff from the hard-packed earth floor. Breakfast? Hope you like congee, because that's the plan. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, you stretch. Not for fun, because if you don't loosen your limbs, you'll injure yourself pounding rice or weaving cloth all day. Outside, your street is alive with motion. Hawkers are already shouting about duck eggs and pickled mustard greens. A cart rattles past, leaving behind a trail of bouncing radishes and 2 deeply unimpressed goats. A woman sweeps her doorway with a broom made of bound twigs, muttering about demons clinging to the dust. Here's your first Imperial reality check. You can't just stroll wherever you like. This city is designed like a board game. Each ward is walled off. Nighttime movement is illegal. There's a guard at each gate, and you need official permission to leave after dark. Historians still argue whether this level of control kept crime down or just made it more creative. But either way, freedom? Not quite. You make your way to the communal water source, a low stone fed by a sluggish canal. A merchant's apprentice elbows past you, sloshing water everywhere. And no, he doesn't apologize. Manners are for later, apparently. Nearby, an elderly scholar is doing Tai Chi. Or maybe he's just lost his balance. Hard to tell. You wash your face with the coldest water imaginable, and your teeth, well, no minty foam here. You chew on a willow twig, fray the end and scrub. Supposedly it prevents decay. The science is murky. The taste? Earthy. Back in your home, you prep for the day. Not in comfy joggers, no. You're wrapping yourself in a cross-tied robe, the hanfu. It's beautiful, yes, but if you tie it the wrong way, left over right, you've just dressed like a corpse. Good luck with that. Your sandals are straw. They chafe, and you don't own socks. Only the rich wear silk stockings, and you're not rich. You're barely rice with salt rich. There's movement outside. Drums echo from the city walls. That's the morning signal. Chang'an is open for business. You join the slow shuffle of workers headed to the markets and workshops. Someone's playing a 2-stringed erhu nearby, mournful and lovely, like the soundtrack of a really elegant personal crisis. As you pass the tea stall, the owner gives you a nod. That's as warm as greetings get before noon. Overhead, banners flutter with calligraphy poems about peaches and loyalty and the fleeting nature of youth. You're pretty sure the only fleeting thing about your youth was your lunch money. One of the emperor's messengers gallops by, scroll case banging against his saddle. His uniform gleams. He has all his teeth. Must be nice. You reach the communal oven, because most people can't afford their own cooking fire. Your neighbor, old Mrs. Liu, is already hogging the hottest spot to bake her sesame biscuits. She guards them like they're gold coins. Maybe they are. A boy runs by, chasing a paper kite shaped like a crane. It dives straight into a fish stall. The stall owner just shrugs. Things fall. That's life. This is your world now. You're hemmed in by rules, traditions, and family expectations. You can't wear certain colors unless your rank allows it. You can't criticize the government out loud. You can't grow your hair short. You can't marry without permission from like 12 people. And still, there's beauty here. The way lantern light spills into the street at night, the scent of jasmine on a passing robe, the rhythm of woodblocks marking each hour from the city tower. It's exhausting. It's overwhelming. It's achingly human. You trudge through your first few hours in Imperial China, already hungry, slightly damp, and mildly judged by a rooster. But don't worry, you've only got 13 more hours of this. You're up, officially. And now the day begins in earnest, whether you like it or not. Which, judging by the scratch in your throat and the fact that your right sandal is already falling apart, you don't. Roosters? They've been crowing for hours. That's not your alarm clock. Your alarm clock is the neighbor's child loudly failing at reciting Confucian sayings before breakfast. You make a mental note. Never name your kid something easily chantable. It'll echo in your ears like a cursed ringtone. The structure of your day isn't negotiable. It's pre-mapped, precise, and profoundly inflexible. From the moment the sun peeks over the tiled roofs of Chang'an, every waking moment is claimed by ritual, labor, and social obligation. And no, you don't get weekends, or even really days off. Leisure in this world is mostly reserved for rich people and ghosts. Your first official task? Breakfast prep. You head to the hearth, if you're lucky enough to share one with your neighbors. If not, it's the public kitchen again, elbowing someone who smells suspiciously like boiled cabbage. Breakfast is congee, a thin rice porridge that's somehow both hot and emotionally lukewarm. Maybe there's a preserved egg in it, if it's a generous morning. More likely, it's flavored with a few pickled greens and disappointment. You eat with lacquered wood chopsticks, chipped at the tips and oddly sticky. Don't ask. The meal is silent, not because you're feeling meditative, but because speaking during breakfast is considered improper. Every slurp echoes like a shameful memory. Children are expected to bow to their elders before lifting their bowls. You bow, but just barely, because your back hurts from sleeping on packed clay. Your grandmother glares at your posture. You glare at your congee. Outside, the ward's main gate creaks open. The city's in motion now. Street cleaners, merchants, temple attendants, they all stream out with a resigned energy that says, yes, we're doing this again. You follow suit, heading to your assigned job, or more accurately, the job your father's father arranged with a cousin of a former neighbor who owed your uncle a favor. This is networking, Tang Dynasty edition. Your position? You're a junior assistant to a lacquerware polisher. Not glamorous. You spend your days hunched over delicate wooden bowls and trays, smoothing the finish with fine cloth and crushed shell. It's repetitive, detailed work. Mess it up and you get docked rice pay, or worse, demoted to spoon duty. Your master, a wiry man with one eyebrow permanently raised, explains things with the speed of molasses. He insists you only polish in one direction, like the river flows. He says this every morning. You nod dutifully. Your hands already dry from yesterday's varnish. There's no moisturizer here. Your knuckles crack when you bow. There's a fringe historical tidbit for you. It's believed that lacquer fumes were considered mildly medicinal. People thought they warded off bad air. Historians still argue whether this belief came from actual observation or the fact that the fumes made everyone slightly dizzy and too confused to complain. Mid-morning is the first break. You step outside for water, dipping a clay cup into a cistern. It's warm and vaguely moss-flavored. Behind you, someone's selling steamed buns from a bamboo basket. You eye them longingly, then remember you only have 2 copper cash. Not enough. Back to work. As the sun climbs higher, so does the heat. There's no fan, no air conditioning, just the slow drip of sweat down your back and the comforting knowledge that your robe will stick to your skin like dumplings to the bottom of a pan. There's a knock at the workshop door. It's the ward inspector. His job? To ensure you're doing your job. He carries a bamboo scroll and a very bored expression. He nods at your master, sniffs the air, and leaves. That's the daily check-in. Apparently, everything smells productive enough. Lunch approaches, and it's not a dramatic shift. It's just less work. You grab your cold rice ball wrapped in lotus leaf, sit in the shade of a mulberry tree, and chew slowly because it's your only moment of non-labor today. A group of older men nearby are gambling with carved bone dice. Technically illegal. Technically done every single day. The loser has to buy tea for everyone. One of them winks at you. You pretend not to notice. You're not part of that world yet. You return to polishing. Hours blend. Your fingers go numb. You try not to smudge. The lacquer dries slowly, like it's taunting you. By late afternoon, you're starting to hallucinate mildly. Was that bowl breathing? And your stomach is asking existential questions. You're already dreading dinner because, let's be honest, it's just breakfast's sadder cousin. You leave work as the sun begins to dip, casting long shadows over the ward walls. Your back hurts. Your knees crack. Your hands are lacquer-stained and smell faintly of vinegar. But hey, you only ruined one tray today, so maybe things are looking up. You stop at the communal bathhouse. It's a wooden structure with hot water from a nearby spring and a strict rule about not talking above a whisper. This, mercifully, suits your energy level. The steam hits your face like a warm slap. You scrub down with a cloth that once might have been soft. There's soap root available, a natural cleanser that also doubles as a mild skin irritant. You emerge from the water flushed, raw, and vaguely cleaner. The street outside glows with lanterns. Vendors are selling candied hawthorn and bean-curd snacks. You buy one with your remaining coin. It's stale but sweet. You chew slowly. This is your dessert. This is your treat. Home again. The same mat, the same smell of damp clay and someone else's pickled radish. You sigh. Tomorrow, you'll wake up to that rooster again. You'll polish another stack of trays. You'll listen to your master whisper about rivers and directions. And you'll do it all knowing full well that if you lived here, you wouldn't survive. Not without at least bribing someone for a pillow. But for now, you roll onto your side, eyes fluttering. The street outside quiets. Somewhere, a temple bell chimes. You made it through a day in Imperial China. Kind of. Because time, in Imperial China, doesn't care about your personal sleep goals. You open your eyes and it's still dark, just that soft indigo glow before sunrise. But the rooster? Oh, he's already conducting his one-bird opera. You groan. Your back protests. Your face feels like it spent the night pressed against a sack of millet. Because it did. Today starts with something you didn't expect to think about so early in the day. Ancient toilets. Specifically, your deeply uncomfortable, slightly terrifying journey to one. See, your modern digestive system is about to meet its greatest enemy, Tang Dynasty sanitation. You shuffle out into the still cool morning air, stomach already grumbling with dread. There's no indoor plumbing, no private bathroom, no polite euphemisms. What awaits you is the public latrine at the edge of the ward, behind the tofu stall, and next to that spot where someone tried to grow melon vines but gave up. The latrine is a rectangular pit with a raised plank over it. There's a screen for modesty, barely. You hover nervously. You try not to breathe too deeply. You think of waterfalls to get things moving. Now here's a fun mainstream historical fact. Imperial China invented toilet paper. Yes, actual sheets of soft, perfumed paper used exclusively by the imperial family and certain high-ranking officials. You, however, are not royalty. You're handed a bamboo stick wrapped with scrap cloth. It's called a chobu, literally a cleaning rag. It's about as pleasant as it sounds. Historians still argue whether commoners in different regions actually used paper or just stuck with sticks, leaves, or even, brace yourself, flat pottery shards. Yep, you'll never look at pottery class the same way again. The smell is indescribable. Not even the strongest incense from the temple market can mask it. You finish your business feeling like you've lost a part of your soul and walk away at a brisk, shame-fueled pace. You try not to think about where the waste goes. Spoiler, it's collected in buckets and sold as fertilizer. Waste not, want not, except maybe want fewer microbes. You stop at the communal water cistern to wash your hands. No soap, just cold water and hope. A child beside you sneezes with the force of a tiny hurricane, and no one blinks. Germ theory? Not a thing yet. Now you begin your day proper, but there's already a twist in your gut, and not just from the latrine experience. Your stomach is having trust issues. The pickled radish from yesterday might have gone rogue. You clutch your belly and remember that there's a traveling herb seller in the next ward. He peddles licorice root and dried chrysanthemum, supposedly cooling for the stomach and dispels excess wind, which sounds like an elegant way of saying may help with your terrible gas. You reach him by mid-morning. His stall is a marvel of chaotic organization, dried leaves, lizards on strings, and something that might be a preserved scorpion all dangle from the awning. He offers you a tea that smells like boiled tree bark and disappointment. You sip. It tastes honest, like something that truly doesn't want to be inside your mouth. But you keep drinking, because alternatives, scarier. While you rest, he tells you about an ailment he's treating called stomach fire. Sounds dramatic, but it basically means spicy food plus stress. You nod slowly. You're definitely spicy and stressed. He also mentions a less common cure for indigestion used in some rural regions: powdered deer antler mixed with water. Apparently, tonifying. And probably also unpleasant. You thank him, half sure you just drank tea laced with regret, and go on your way. Back in your ward, the gossip is flowing faster than the river near the granary. Someone's cousin's aunt got sick from a dumpling. A temple cat gave birth to 5 kittens, which is either very lucky or very cursed, depending on whom you ask. And there's word that a new bathhouse is opening that uses imported herbs, which may just mean mint someone found in a ditch. You reach your home and notice your younger sibling scratching at their arm. Fleas, again. This brings us to another daily challenge: personal hygiene. Baths aren't daily, they're once a week if you're lucky. You wipe yourself down with a damp cloth most days, maybe rub some rice bran into your skin to exfoliate, or ash, yep, literal wood ash. As for body odor, everyone smells. You just pretend it's incense. Some wealthier folks use scented powders, especially under the arms and around the neck. You sprinkle some dried orange peel in your robe and hope for the best. There's a small jar on your shelf, your family's prized possession, a homemade face paste of pearl powder, ground mung beans, and maybe a splash of vinegar. Your mother swears it brightens the skin. You apply some. It tingles in a way that says, this is either working or mildly corrosive. And let's not forget oral care. You chew on that same willow twig, fray the end, and try not to gag. There's also a fringe tip you overheard, rubbing salt directly on your gums. You try it. Your gums weep in silence. Historians still debate how effective these hygiene practices really were. Some argue that herbal solutions had antimicrobial properties. Others suggest people just built up heroic levels of tolerance and gut flora. Back outside, the sun is high. You squint up at the sky and wonder how many more hours you'll need to endure before curling up on your mat again. You consider pretending to faint just to earn a few minutes of lying down, but your grandmother would drag you up by the ear. You pass a noblewoman's procession on the street. Her palanquin is surrounded by perfumed guards, and she wears embroidered silk with sleeves that could double as sails. You cough into your sleeve and feel the lacquer dust from yesterday rise like ancient regret. Eventually, you drag your dusty, slightly itchy self back home. You rinse your face again because your mother's voice echoes in your memory. Clean face, clear soul. You're not sure if that's Confucian or just something she made up. You collapse onto your mat, your stomach now calmer, your hands rougher, your nose still haunted by that morning's latrine. You survived another round with Imperial China's hygiene game. And tomorrow, you'll do it again, hopefully with fewer sticks involved. The sun presses down harder today, as if the heavens themselves have it in for your poor, tired shoulders. You step outside, rubbing your eyes against the dust that clings stubbornly to everything: your robe, the wooden shutters, even your patience. The city hums with life, a constant murmur of haggling voices, creaking carts, and distant temple bells tolling for reasons you can only guess. Today you've been tasked with a rather curious chore: assisting at the local market's fish stall. It's early, and the air is pungent with the sharp scent of brine, fish guts, and the unmistakable aroma of fermented tofu, the culinary equivalent of a punch to the nose. The stall is run by old Zhang, a man whose leathery skin is as weathered as the nets he casts daily. He's already muttering about the price of salted carp and whether the government's latest tax on seafood will make his business sink or swim. You listen, mostly to figure out which side to take when the argument inevitably circles back to the superiority of freshwater versus saltwater fish. Pro tip: pick saltwater. unless you want a lifetime of grudges. Your job is simple but unpleasant. Clean the fish, scale by scale, and sort the catch for customers. The tools are basic: a knife that's seen better days and a bucket that's always half full of cold, fishy water. You grip the slippery fish, feeling its scales dig into your palms, and the occasional flick of its tail sending a cold splash onto your sleeves. Here's a mainstream historical fact for you. During the Tang Dynasty, seafood was a luxury for most people, especially fresh fish. Preservation methods like salting, drying, and fermenting were vital, but fresh catches were reserved for the elite or special occasions. So you, polishing lacquerware by day, are really just filling in at the fish stall because someone needed an extra pair of hands. Now for something a bit more peculiar. The Tang were known to use fish oil lamps, where the oil was literally extracted from fish parts and burned for light. Efficient, yes, but imagine the smell. Historians still debate whether these lamps were used mainly in homes or only in temple settings due to the stench. While you're scraping scales, a customer approaches, a scholar with a carefully trimmed beard and robes as pristine as a winter morning. He eyes your rough hands and offers a polite nod. You nod back, wondering how many fish he's eaten in his life versus how many he's read about in books. Fish cleaning isn't just smelly work, it's also a subtle test of patience. One wrong slip with the knife and you could lose a finger, or at least a shard of dignity. You grit your teeth, channeling your inner river, steadying your hands like old Zhang taught you. A smooth river never rushes. At midday, the stall's bustling. Customers jostle, children weave between legs, and a cat, clearly an expert in street negotiations, sidles up, hoping for a fishy bribe. Old Zhang shoos it away, grumbling in a dialect that sounds like it was designed to scare away vermin and unwelcome visitors. You step aside for a moment, wiping sweat from your brow. The sun is relentless, baking the market stalls into little ovens of human commerce. Your robe sticks to your skin, and you itch at a spot behind your ear where you swear something just crawled. This is when you notice the tiny painted signs hanging above the stalls. They aren't just advertisements, they're an art form, adorned with calligraphy and clever puns. One reads, "Fish so fresh the river is jealous." Another promises, "Salted to perfection, to make your ancestors proud." You can't help but smirk. Nearby, a man is hawking medicinal fish soup, promising longevity and clear vision. You wonder if it really works, or if it's just a fancy broth with a lot of hype. Historians still argue whether these medicinal soups had actual health benefits or were mostly clever marketing. Late afternoon rolls in. The fish stall is winding down. Old Zhang counts his earnings with a satisfaction reserved for those who've cheated death by fish scale and blade one more day. You're rewarded with a leftover salted shrimp, a delicacy for you, and a promise of more responsibility tomorrow. You're not sure if that's good or bad. On your way back through the crowded streets, you pass by a small shrine tucked between two merchant houses. Incense curls upward, filling the air with a sweet, resinous perfume. A woman kneels, hands folded in prayer, murmuring for protection, not for the emperor, not for the city, but for her family's small fish business. You pause, watching the smoke drift lazily into the sky. The weight of history feels heavy, but oddly comforting. As twilight falls, you find yourself back on your mat, your hands still smelling faintly of sea salt and fish. You close your eyes and imagine the river near Chang'an flowing steady and eternal, much like the endless rhythm of days here. Fish scales, lacquer polish, pickled radish, and all. Tomorrow, you think, maybe you'll get to polish something less slimy. The morning light filters in softly, but the city never truly sleeps. You find yourself drawn to the sounds beyond your window. The low hum of merchants setting up stalls, the scrape of carts against stone, and the occasional sharp call of a street vendor hawking jade trinkets and hand-carved combs. You're supposed to head out early to assist at the grain storehouse, but first, the little matter of your breakfast. Today's menu is simple: steamed buns filled with a paste made from mashed red beans. Warm but slightly bland, these buns fill your stomach enough to get you moving, though not enough to quell the gnawing urge for something richer. You unwrap the cloth holding your food, inhale the faint yeasty smell, and bite in, appreciating the soft texture and quiet comfort. Historians remind us that staple foods like millet and rice were essential in imperial China, yet the versions people ate were often far less glamorous than the ones depicted in art or poetry. A stark reminder that for most, dining was about survival, not indulgence. With your meal finished, you head toward the granary, a hulking structure of wooden beams and clay walls. It's a lifeline for the community, storing the essential grain that keeps everyone fed through famine, war, and poor harvests. Your role today is to assist with inventory and maintenance, a task that's equal parts monotonous and sweaty. The workers here are efficient but hardened, each with a practiced eye for quality. Grain spoiled by moisture or pests is discarded without hesitation, a harsh but necessary act to preserve the larger stores. A curious fact floats in your mind. Imperial China developed an elaborate bureaucracy to manage grain storage and distribution, ensuring stability and preventing famine. This system was a marvel for its time, a precursor to modern public food policy. A fringe tidbit adds color. Some granaries use trained birds of prey to hunt down rodents, reducing spoilage naturally. Historians still debate how widespread and effective this method truly was. While you haul sacks of millet and barley, you overhear snippets of conversation about the latest imperial decree. Taxes are being raised, and the market prices will reflect that soon. Everyone mutters complaints beneath their breath, but the grain must keep moving. Midway through the day, a sudden chill wind sweeps through the warehouse. You pause, noticing how even in the heat, the coming of the monsoon season brings a subtle change in the air. It's a reminder that nature still rules, regardless of human plans. Your hands are rough and callous now, but there's a quiet satisfaction in physical labor that you didn't expect. The sun above beats down, a reminder that comfort is a luxury, not a right. Later, you help seal a small breach in the granary walls with clay and straw, watching the dust swirl in golden rays of light. You wonder how many hands before yours have patched these walls, each contributing to the survival of their community in small, silent ways. As you walk home, you pass an elderly man selling candied lotus seeds, a delicacy that's both sweet and slightly medicinal. You buy a few, their sticky texture a pleasant contrast to the day's dust and sweat. At night, you sit beneath a paper lantern, its flickering flame casting shadows that dance like ancient spirits. You recall the day's events and feel a strange connection to the countless souls who've lived and worked in these streets, enduring the same challenges and finding moments of grace. Your mat feels softer tonight, the smells of cooking drifting in from neighboring homes. You settle in, eyelids heavy, heart a little fuller. Tomorrow promises new tasks, new smells, new struggles, and the steady, unyielding flow of life in imperial China. You awake to the sound of drums pounding somewhere in the distance, a rhythmic call that ripples through the morning air like an ancient heartbeat. Today, you're not just any commoner. You're going to witness a ritual, a ceremony held in honor of the local gods who keep the harvests plentiful and the rivers calm. It's one of those days where superstition and governance intertwine, and your role is to help prepare offerings. The streets are alive with excitement and a hint of nervous energy. Vendors hawk fragrant incense sticks and bundles of brightly colored paper shaped like miniature houses and boats. These will be burned as offerings to ancestors and spirits, a practice meant to secure blessings and favor. You carry a basket filled with freshly picked chrysanthemums, their golden petals brushing against your fingers like tiny, ticklish feathers. The flower's scent is both sharp and soothing, a reminder that even amid hardship, beauty exists. Historians note that such rituals were more than mere superstition. They played crucial roles in social cohesion and political legitimacy. The state endorsed and sometimes orchestrated these ceremonies to reinforce the emperor's divine mandate. A quirky detail. Some villagers believe that if you accidentally burn the wrong paper offering, like a miniature house instead of a boat, the spirit you're honoring might get stranded, or worse, homeless. Talk about a celestial housing crisis. The procession begins near the city gate, where a wooden altar has been erected. The community gathers, faces painted with solemnity and hope. You help lay out bowls of rice, fresh fish, and sweet cakes on the altar, each item symbolizing prosperity and gratitude. As the incense curls upward, so does the smoke of firecrackers. The deafening pops are designed to scare away evil spirits, though they also scare small children and startled cats alike. You cover your ears, chuckling softly. An elder steps forward, reciting prayers in a voice cracked by age and devotion. You listen, feeling the words reverberate in your chest, a hum that connects past and present. Mid-ceremony, you spot a man selling lucky charms fashioned from carved jade and woven silk threads. Some claim these charms protect against disease, others promise success in the imperial exams. You're tempted, but your purse feels lighter than your stomach after last night's stew. The event ends with a communal feast, simple dishes shared among neighbors, a brief respite from daily toil. You savor sticky rice balls and sweet bean soup, warming your hands around the steaming bowls. Historians still argue whether these communal rituals were primarily religious or social events. Perhaps both, you think, as you watch children chase each other beneath lantern-lit trees. As dusk settles, you find yourself humming an old folk tune, the melody lingering like incense smoke. The city seems to breathe a little easier tonight, cradled in the quiet comfort of tradition. You crawl back to your mat, heart lightened by the shared spirit of hope and resilience. Tomorrow, the rhythms of labor will resume, but for now, the gentle echo of drums lulls you towards sleep. You wake before dawn, the sky still a soft shade of navy blue as you prepare for one of the most dreaded parts of the day, the market cleanup. The bustling stalls have quieted down, but the aftermath remains, a chaotic landscape of discarded husks, crushed vegetables, and stray feathers from last night's poultry sales. Your task? Sweep, sort, and make sure the area is spotless before the morning crowd arrives again. The broom in your hands is a simple bundle of twigs bound with straw, effective but awkward. Each stroke sends a cloud of dust that tickles your throat and makes your eyes water. You cough, waving a sleeve in front of your face, trying not to lose your rhythm. The market smells different at this hour. The fresh scent of morning dew mixes with the lingering aroma of soy sauce and fermented beans. Somewhere nearby, a vendor boils water for tea, and the faint whiff of jasmine leaves teases your senses. Here's a straightforward fact. Markets in Imperial China were not only places of commerce, but vital social hubs where news, gossip, and politics flowed as freely as the tea. They were the lifeblood of urban existence. Now, for something a little more offbeat, some market workers believed that if you didn't clean thoroughly, the spirits of discarded food would become restless, causing bad luck or even sickness. So you sweep, not just for cleanliness, but for your own spiritual safety. Historians still debate how seriously these beliefs influence daily labor. As you work, you notice a group of children playing near the rice sacks, their laughter bright and contagious. One boy holds a small kite, its paper wings painted with dragons and phoenixes. You watch as he runs, sending it soaring into the gray morning sky, a brief flash of color against the dull stone buildings. Nearby, a vendor untangles a mass of silk threads, preparing to weave them into delicate scarves and hairpins. The craftsmanship is exquisite, a reminder that beauty and artistry persist even in the most practical of places. Sweeping behind the stalls, you come across a discarded peach pit. It's oddly satisfying to hold, smooth and cool, like a tiny relic from a forgotten feast. You pocket it, amused by the thought that someday this pit might grow into a tree whose fruit will be savored by someone else's descendants. Later, you help a fellow worker repair a broken cartwheel using wooden pegs and leather straps. The work is methodical, requiring patience and precision. You marvel at the ingenuity, no fancy tools, just raw skill and resourcefulness. By mid-morning, the market is transforming. New vendors set up their stalls, merchants shout their wares, and the streets fill with a crescendo of voices and footsteps. The city is alive, chaotic, and utterly relentless. You wipe your hands on your robe and take a moment to savor a cup of bitter tea, its warmth spreading through your fingers. Around you, the rhythm of the market pulses steadily, an ancient dance of survival and community. As the sun climbs higher, you feel the weight of the day settling in, but also a quiet pride. You are part of this ever-turning wheel, however small your role may seem. And as you return home, the peach pit still in your pocket, you smile at the thought that even in the dust and noise, life unfolds in the tiniest, most unexpected ways. The heat presses down like a thick blanket, and you find yourself wiping sweat from your brow as you step into the sprawling textile workshop. Today, your duty is to assist with the spinning and dyeing of silk threads, a craft that's as delicate as it is essential. The air inside is tinged with the sharp scent of mordants and plant dyes, a heady mix that makes your head swim slightly. You watch as seasoned artisans pull gleaming threads through vats of indigo and safflower dye, their hands moving with practiced grace. Each color tells a story, a hidden language of status, tradition, and sometimes rebellion. Here's a known historical fact. During Imperial China, silk production was a tightly controlled industry, with entire towns devoted to raising silkworms and weaving the precious fabric. Silk was so valuable that revealing its secrets to outsiders was punishable by death. An odd little detail: some dye recipes included crushed insects to achieve certain reds and purples. The thought of dyeing your robes with bug juice might not sound appealing now, but back then, it was a mark of luxury. Historians still debate how widely these insect-based dyes were used beyond elite garments. You're handed a wooden spindle and shown how to twist the delicate threads, a task requiring both patience and a steady hand. The thread slips between your fingers like liquid, and you imagine the countless women who have sat in these workshops over centuries, weaving the fabric of an empire. Outside, you hear the rhythmic clack of looms, the heartbeats of textile creation. The workshop buzzes with quiet conversation about the latest fashions worn by court officials and the rising influence of foreign designs. The Silk Road may have been far away, but its effects ripple through this very room. Midway through your shift, you're invited to sample a small piece of dyed fabric, a vibrant crimson that glows almost unnaturally in the dim light. Wearing it would surely mark you as someone important, but for now, it remains a fragile treasure held in your palm. You notice the supervisor watching you closely, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Maybe it's your steady progress, or the way you don't flinch when a stray dye splash lands on your robe. By afternoon, your fingers ache slightly from the constant twisting, but there's also a quiet satisfaction. Creating something so beautiful, so vital, feels like leaving a mark on the world, however small. As you prepare to leave, a fellow worker offers you a small bundle of mulberry leaves, the key food of the silkworm. You tuck it into your robe, a strange but comforting reminder of the unseen creatures whose labor makes all this possible. Walking home, the sun sets in a blaze of pink and orange, casting long shadows over the city. The silk threads and insect dyes fade from your thoughts, replaced by the simple promise of rest. You crawl onto your mat, the faint scent of dye still clinging to your sleeves, and close your eyes. Tomorrow, you'll spin threads again, weaving the fabric not just of silk, but of a life in this sprawling, relentless empire. Dawn breaks slowly, its soft light revealing a city still wrapped in the quiet haze of early morning mist. Today, you are summoned to assist with the preparation of medicinal herbs, an ancient, mysterious craft that blends science, tradition, and a fair bit of guesswork. The apothecary's shop is a small, cluttered space filled with wooden shelves sagging under jars of dried roots, powders, and strange animal parts. The air is thick with the mingled scents of cinnamon, ginger, and something faintly metallic. You wrinkle your nose but follow instructions carefully, measuring and mixing ingredients as the herbalist directs. A basic fact: traditional Chinese medicine dates back thousands of years, combining observations of nature with philosophical ideas like yin and yang to diagnose and treat illnesses. Many remedies involved complex blends designed to restore balance rather than just target symptoms. For a quirky twist, some remedies included ground-up deer antlers and even powdered pearls. There's a story about one emperor who insisted on drinking a concoction that made him feel immortal, though historians still argue whether it was truly effective or just a royal placebo. Your hands tremble slightly as you grind dried chrysanthemum petals into a fine powder. The herbalist explains that chrysanthemum tea is believed to reduce fever and calm the spirit. You wonder if it will help with your persistent headaches or just taste like bitter sadness. You help wrap herbs in small cloth bundles tied with red silk thread, the color symbolizing protection and good fortune. These packets are sold or traded throughout the city, promising healing, luck, or sometimes just a good night's sleep. Outside, the marketplace bustles, But inside this small shop, time seems to slow. The apothecary hums quietly, filled with whispered stories of cures and curses passed down through generations. Midday, a young woman arrives seeking a remedy for her child's persistent cough. The herbalist listens carefully, nodding as she selects ingredients. You watch the exchange, fascinated by the trust placed in these ancient practices, trust that survives despite changing times. You learn a few words of the complex terminology, terms like qi and meridians, which sound more like poetry than science. Historians still debate how much of traditional Chinese medicine was based on empirical observation versus symbolic philosophy. As the day wears on, your nose grows more accustomed to the scents, and you find a strange comfort in the ritual of grinding, mixing, and measuring. It's a dance as old as the empire itself. By evening, you step outside with a small pouch of dried herbs gifted by the herbalist. You imagine brewing a cup of tea that might ease the weight of the day, soothing both body and mind. You walk home under a sky heavy with stars, the scents of cinnamon and chrysanthemum lingering like a promise. Settling onto your mat, you close your eyes, the herbal aroma still faint on your breath. Tomorrow holds more labor, more lessons, and maybe, just maybe, a little healing. You rise early again, the chill of dawn brushing your skin as you make your way to the city's bustling workshop district. This time, entering the world of iron and fire. Your task today is to assist blacksmiths crafting tools and weapons, a demanding trade where strength and skill meet in a dance of sparks and smoke. The air is thick with the scent of molten metal and burnt coal, your eyes adjusting to the fiery glow of the forge. The blacksmiths work with rhythmic hammer strikes, each clang echoing like the heartbeat of the city itself. You're handed a tongs and a partially cooled blade, tasked with scraping away slag and smoothing imperfections. A fact worth noting, Imperial China was renowned for its advances in metallurgy, producing steel so strong and sharp it was prized throughout Asia. The mastery of ironwork was vital, not only for agriculture, but for the vast military campaigns that shaped the empire's history. Now for a quirky detail, some smiths believed in enchanting their tools by heating them under moonlight or hammering in specific patterns that were supposed to ward off evil spirits. Whether this helped the blade's strength or just the owner's confidence, historians still debate. Your arms ache quickly as you labor over the blade, sweat dripping down your back despite the cool morning air. The forge is unforgiving, and the risk of burns or injury is ever present. You admire the blacksmith's effortless grace, each swing a testament to years of practice. Between hammer blows, the smiths talk about the latest rumors. Some say the emperor plans to expand the army, demanding more weapons and armor. Others whisper about rebellions in distant provinces, tension bubbling beneath the surface. You're allowed a brief moment to inspect a newly forged arrowhead, its edges gleaming sharp enough to slice silk. The precision and artistry are remarkable, a marriage of utility and beauty. As midday approaches, you help carry heavy buckets of water to cool the heated metal. The clanging noises fade briefly, replaced by the splash and hiss as blades meet their quenching baths. You glance at the blacksmith's apprentice, a young woman whose hands move swiftly despite her youth. She laughs quietly when you ask if she's ever burned herself. "Only every other day," she replies, a grin tugging at her lips. The afternoon passes in a haze of smoke and labor, and by the time you leave, your muscles are sore but your spirit oddly uplifted. You realize that despite the harshness, this craft, like so many others you've encountered, is a vital thread woven into the fabric of this immense empire. As you walk home, the city hums around you, vendors calling, children playing, the distant clang of another forge lighting up the evening sky. You think of the tools and weapons made today, the unseen work that keeps an empire strong. Your mat awaits, and though your hands tremble slightly, you close your eyes with a new appreciation for the forge's fierce, glowing heart. The morning greets you with the steady drip of rain against your window, a soft percussion that mingles with the distant chatter of neighbors starting their day. Today you find yourself drawn to the quiet but vital world of calligraphy, the art of writing that, in Imperial China, was as revered as poetry or painting. You settle at a low wooden table cluttered with brushes, inkstones, and thin sheets of rice paper. Your fingers hover uncertainly over the brush, its bristles soft but precise. A master calligrapher nearby dips his brush into a pool of jet black ink, creating strokes that seem to flow effortlessly across the page. You try to mimic his movements, feeling the delicate balance between pressure and release, the subtle dance that transforms ink into meaning. Each character is more than a letter. It's a piece of art, a philosophy, a history, a historical fact to hold on to. Calligraphy was a core component of education and governance, with mastery often required for civil service examinations. The ability to write beautifully could open doors to power and prestige. For a whimsical side note, some calligraphers believed their brushes were imbued with the spirit of the ancient sages and would refuse to let just anyone use their cherished tools. The brushes were almost treated like lucky charms, adding an almost mystical quality to the practice. Historians still debate how much this belief influenced the art's evolution. Your own writing is shaky, but there's a quiet satisfaction in each carefully formed stroke. Outside the window, the rain continues, a rhythmic accompaniment to your efforts. Nearby, a teacher explains the philosophical depth of the brushstrokes, how the flow of ink mirrors the flow of chi, the life energy within all things. The discipline required is as much spiritual as it is technical. You glance at a scroll hanging on the wall, the words elegantly looping like gentle waves. The text is a poem about the impermanence of life and the enduring power of art, appropriate thoughts for a restless world. A student nearby practices characters for hours, eyes narrowing in concentration. You marvel at the patience required, the way this ancient practice has survived centuries of turmoil and change. The rain slows, sunlight breaking through clouds and casting soft light over your papers. You set the brush down, feeling calmer than when you arrived. As you leave the workshop, the scent of ink and paper lingers, a reminder that even in a city shaped by labor and bureaucracy, there's room for quiet artistry. Walking home, you think about how words can shape worlds, how a single character might sway an emperor's decision or comfort a lonely soul. You curl up on your mat that night, with a new appreciation for the power of the written line, the silent legacy of ink and brush. The sun's rays slice through morning fog as you make your way toward the sprawling imperial granaries on the outskirts of the city. Your job today is to help oversee the storage and distribution of rice, the backbone of the empire's food supply and a constant source of tension beneath the surface. The granaries are enormous wooden structures stacked high with sacks of polished rice grains. The scent here is earthy and comforting, a reminder of seasons past and the hope for harvests yet to come. Workers move steadily, weighing, sorting, and documenting the precious commodity with a seriousness that borders on reverence. Here's a fact. The imperial government maintains strict control over grain stores to prevent famine and rebellion, often imposing harsh penalties on those caught hoarding or stealing. Food was power, and the granaries were a fortress of that power. A curious tidbit, some officials believed that spirits of famine and abundance dwelled within the granaries, leading to rituals of offering and purification to keep them appeased. You can almost imagine tiny ghostly guardians watching over the rice. Historians still argue how widespread these beliefs really were among bureaucrats. Your hands trace the rough surface of a burlap sack, your mind wandering to the farmers who toiled in distant fields, hands blistered and backs bent under the weight of the seasons. Without their labor, none of this abundance would exist. A clerk nearby records inventory with a brush and paper scroll, his strokes meticulous. Mistakes could mean disaster, famine, or unrest. You feel the weight of responsibility, even in this small role. Midday brings a sudden inspection. A stern official arrives, his face unreadable beneath a wide-brimmed hat. He questions workers and checks the ledgers with a sharp eye. You hold your breath, grateful not to be singled out. After he leaves, workers exchange wary glances, whispers spreading about rumored grain shortages in neighboring provinces. The tension is palpable, a reminder that even plenty can't erase fear. As the afternoon sun wanes, you help load sacks onto carts bound for city markets. The rhythmic clatter of wheels and the creak of wood echo through the air. Walking back toward the city center, you carry a small pouch of rice gifted by a kindly granary worker. It feels heavy with meaning, a tangible symbol of survival. You wonder about the countless hands, seen and unseen, that keep this empire fed, the delicate balance between plenty and scarcity. That night, as you lie down, the memory of the granary's cool, shadowed aisles lingers, a quiet reminder of how even the humblest grain can carry the weight of an empire. Evening settles in like a soft blanket, and you find yourself walking toward the city gates, where the Imperial Guards stand watch. Tonight, your task is a brief one, to observe and assist with the maintenance of the city's ancient defense walls, a job that's part ritual, part necessity, and entirely exhausting. The stone walls loom above you, weathered but formidable. Moss clings to cracks, and tiny plants poke from crevices where time has worn away the mortar. The air is cooler here, mixed with the faint scent of wood smoke from nearby hearths. A straightforward fact: the Great Wall and city fortifications were not just military defenses, but symbols of imperial strength and unity. Soldiers and workers regularly repaired them to guard against both invasion and internal unrest. A quirky note: some guards believed the walls themselves had spirits that could be angered by neglect. To keep these spirits happy, they sometimes left small offerings, rice cakes or incense, in hidden niches. Historians still debate how much such beliefs influenced official maintenance routines. You join a small crew tasked with replacing loose stones and reinforcing wooden gates. The work is slow, requiring careful placement to ensure the wall's integrity. Your fingers grow numb in the cool evening air, and the occasional spiderweb brushes against your face. Around you, soldiers practice archery and sword drills, their movements precise and disciplined. One grizzled veteran tells tales of battles long past, his voice low and steady as the night deepens. You catch sight of the city lights twinkling beyond the walls, a reminder of the vibrant life contained within. The contrast between this quiet vigil and the bustling streets feels stark, as if two worlds coexist side by side. Midway through the night, a sudden gust of wind sends loose leaves swirling against the stone. You shiver and pull your robe tighter, wondering how many nights like this have been spent guarding these walls over centuries. Despite the cold and fatigue, there's a strange comfort in the routine, the feeling of standing watch over something greater than yourself. The walls are a line in the sand, a promise of protection and order. As dawn approaches, you finish your tasks and lean against the cool stone, watching the sky blush with first light. The city awakens slowly, and you feel the weight of the night's labor settle into your bones. Walking home, you carry with you the silent stories etched into every brick and beam, stories of defense, resilience, and an empire's unyielding will. Tonight, the walls hold strong, and so do you, the Lun said. The dawn light filters softly through the wooden slats of a tea house tucked away in a narrow alley. Today you find yourself immersed in the delicate world of tea culture, a ritual that, in Imperial China, was far more than just sipping a warm drink. It was a symbol of refinement, social order, and even philosophy. You sit cross-legged on a woven mat as the tea master carefully prepares a brew using loose leaves and boiling water. The steam curls upward, carrying a subtle fragrance that is both calming and invigorating. Your hands tremble slightly as you hold the delicate porcelain cup, savoring the first bitter, earthy sip. Here's a fact to steep in. Tea drinking became deeply intertwined with Chinese culture during the Tang and Song dynasties, eventually influencing everything from poetry to politics. Tea ceremonies were a way to demonstrate respect, patience, and mindfulness. A quirky detail: some tea connoisseurs claim that the perfect brew required talking to the leaves, encouraging them to wake up before steeping. This may sound a bit silly now, but historians still argue whether these rituals were just playful traditions or genuine spiritual practices. You watch as the tea master's hands move with deliberate grace, swirling the cup and inspecting the color of the infusion. The quiet atmosphere is punctuated only by the gentle clink of porcelain and the soft murmurs of other patrons. You're invited to learn the proper way to pour tea, an art that involves precision and a certain flair. The goal is to create a perfect balance of temperature and taste, a fleeting moment of harmony. Outside, you overhear discussions about recent poetry competitions and debates on Confucian ideals. Tea here is more than a beverage. It's a social currency, a bridge between people and ideas. Midway through your visit, you try a rare variety of tea with a floral note so subtle it almost escapes notice. It's a sensory whisper that lingers long after the last sip. You reflect on how this simple leaf carries centuries of history, culture, and even controversy. From the sprawling imperial courts to humble village gatherings, tea connects people in ways that transcend time. As you step back into the bustling streets, the warmth of the tea spreads through you like a gentle embrace, a small comfort in the vast, often harsh world around you. Later that night, lying on your mat, you savor the memory of the tea's warmth, a quiet reminder that even in the busiest empire, moments of peace are possible. Night descends gently, a soft curtain of stars twinkling above the vast city as you prepare to spend your final day within this sprawling imperial maze. Today, your role is to explore the world of education and the civil service exams, a grueling, unforgiving test that could either catapult you into power or leave you broken and forgotten. You enter a dimly lit study hall where rows of candidates sit silently, their faces a mix of hope and anxiety. Scrolls and brush pens are scattered across desks, and the faint smell of ink and paper hangs in the air. The pressure is palpable. Failure here means more than disappointment. It often means a lifetime trapped in poverty or obscurity. Here's the undeniable fact. The imperial examination system was one of the most rigorous and influential in history, selecting government officials based on merit rather than birthright. Success could transform a peasant into a scholar official, wielding immense influence. A strange little fact, candidates were sometimes locked in tiny cubicles called examination cells for days, allowed only brief breaks. This practice bred intense stress and exhaustion, which some claimed was as much a test of endurance as of knowledge. Historians still debate how humane or effective these conditions truly were. You try to focus on your brush as you copy classical Confucian texts, your mind fogging under the relentless scrutiny. Around you, whispers of poetry, law, and history mingle with the scratching of brushes on paper. A proctor walks the aisles, his stern gaze a constant reminder that any cheating or disruption could lead to immediate expulsion, or worse. You glimpse a fellow candidate's trembling hands, the weight of expectation nearly crushing him. Outside, you hear the faint echo of temple bells, a reminder of the spiritual balance that underpins this intellectual trial. The exam isn't just a test of knowledge, it's a test of character, patience, and resilience. As the hours stretch on, your thoughts wander to the future, the promise of a better life, the possibility of serving the emperor and shaping the destiny of millions. But also the brutal reality that for most, this path is a dead end. When the final brushstroke dries, you breathe deeply, exhausted but oddly proud. You've glimpsed a world where knowledge is power, and survival means more than just physical endurance. Walking home through moonlit streets, the city feels different, quieter, more introspective. The hopes and dreams of countless scholars seem to echo in the still night air. You settle onto your mat one last time, heart heavy yet hopeful, the distant hum of an empire both magnificent and merciless lulling you towards sleep. Now, slowing your breath, softening your thoughts, imagine the vastness of this ancient empire gradually fading into the quiet night. The endless labor, the rigorous rituals, the shimmering silk, and the steady drip of ink, all now gentle whispers in your mind. Feel the calm ease around your shoulders as you release the weight of the day. Let your eyelids grow heavier, sinking softly into rest. No need to rush anywhere now. The sprawling city, the unyielding walls, the fragrant tea ceremonies all dissolve into a peaceful dreamscape. You've traveled through time and toil, tasted the bitterness and sweetness of a life that few could endure. Now, wrapped in the comfort of your own bed, the empire's noise fades away, leaving only quiet. Good night, traveler. Sweet dreams. End of script. Sweet dreams.